because they talked about Uncle Richard and my father-in-law like that. Y'all just kind of come in like, yeah, I'm here. Okay, good to see you, sir. If you can't laugh in church, just a little bit too deep. 2 Timothy chapter number 3. We're going to pick it up at verse number 1, and then we'll run. Is that all right? Are you there? Look at your name and say, I need this word. So please help me to receive my word. All right, buckle up. Here we go. What does it say? Read in concert with me. This know also that in the last days, perilous times, I'm going to paraphrase and say, have come. Okay? I'm not deviating from what God has said for this particular year, that we're going to seize what we see. But he stopped me down as I traveled this week and began to speak. Said, this know also that in the last days, these days, perilous, or when interpreted, dangerous times have or shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves. They shall be covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers. I'm reading by myself today. Disobedient to parents, whether that be spiritual or natural. Unthankful, unholy. Don't get mad with me, Paul wrote it. When you see him in heaven, you talk to him about it. He said, in this day they will be without natural affection. The affections that they were born with, or God had purposed. There'll be truce breakers, false accusers. Incontinent means they can't hold nothing. Fierce, despisers of those that are good. Traitors, heady, high-minded. Lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. Having a form of godliness, but denying that he has power. From such things turn away. Verse 10, but thou hast fully known my doctrine. Paul says, listen, Timothy, I'm preparing you for transition. So you've known my doctrine and my manner of life. You've known my purpose, people of purpose, my faith, long suffering, charity. You know my patience. But you also know the persecutions and the afflictions which came to me at Antioch, at Iconium, at Lystra. What persecutions I endured. But that's okay. I'm good. I'm cool. Because out of all of them, the Lord has delivered me. Here's that word again. Yea! And all that will live godly. You watch me go through. But you got to go through too. If you're going to live for God. All that shall live godly shall what? Suffer persecution. 13, I'm almost there. Don't get nervous. And evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. But don't stress. Just continue in the things that you have learned and have been assured of. In other words, don't panic, don't Facebook, don't tweet, don't X with all these different stuff going on, TikToking. Just continue in that which you have learned and that you have been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them, and that from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Christ Jesus. Thou hast faithfully known my doctrine, verse 11, 10, my purpose, faith, long suffering, charity, and patience, in spite of all that's going on. Now, that may not sound like a whole lot of anything today to amount to a whole lot of anything to you, but for the sake of momentary information, dissemination, dare I say clarification or verification, look at your neighbor and speak it on them with favor. Say, hey, neighbor. Come on, you need to talk to him today. Say, hey, neighbor, here's the word for us today. Say, I'm inclined. Come on, say, I really am inclined that we are about to start experiencing the best of things in the worst of times. You may be seated in and amongst the household of faith. Can I just talk to you for about 20-25 minutes? We are, Lady Hosley, about to start experiencing the very best of things, Hardy. But it does not discount the fact, Sister Nicole, that these are the worst of times. Are you praying? Now, people of God, it was not long after I somewhat hurriedly exited Hosley, left the service last week, that I found myself literally sitting on a plane mid-flight, seeking and seriously soliciting out the assistance of our God for both his wisdom as well as his insight. In fact, while flying my way towards the Bay, after departing here last Sunday, I personally pondered just what the Lord would then bring me back home in the next few days to say to those whom would assemble this week to hear what he would speak. And as we unarguably are doing our very best, if I can just really talk to you, teach you, if I don't preach to you, we're all doing our very best to both navigate as well as to negotiate our way through what I'm going to call these rather different, or even these, dare I say, definitively difficult days. You see, in light of our seemingly daily and ever-changing situations, I needed to pull upon the Lord, Nyla, because I needed some inside information. So, Mom LaSure, I was in mid-flight, and I asked God for insight because I needed some inside information about this changing, daily changing situation. So perhaps I should, Jawan, use the ministerial monologue of this morning's deitily directed dialogue to make sure that it's conceptually chronologued and even cranially cataloged, that if you look at it in the natural, let's see what's happening. And this is just a little snapshot. Russia and Ukraine are in a war I deem to be insane. Our president is a regular communicator with a demonstrated and self-declared dictator. Our economy, come on, let's be honest, is in a literal calamity. We almost today have to beg to get a carton of eggs. There are potential elements of consistent government shutdowns all around. We look locally or nationally, there are continual shootings and killings on our streets that even the police are not able to defeat. And let's bring it all the way home. We are all going through some type of family adversity with regularity. Am I talking to the right church? So perhaps this morning, before I go too far, I think it's most apropos, even appropriate, that I let you know that while I stand in the literal likeness of the sons of Issachar with a proven prophetic understanding of precisely where in the spirit realm, both natural and spiritual, just where we are, I do need the Lord with specificity to speak into our atmosphere and make it abundantly clear, if not conclusively clear, just where, God, do you want your people to go from here? You may not jump and shout today. Can I just talk to you? In fact, what it is that this text, the text of 1 Chronicles 12:32, 1 Chronicles 12:32 is readily read in remediated review. What we find to be true is that these Issacharian men, or dare I say these Issacharian citizens, stood, Gina, with understanding of the times, but they yet solicited the assistance and the mind of God, the mindset of God, as to what they should do in order to get God's people through these pressing, depressing issues. Y'all gonna at least pray with me today? People of God, might I ministerially and even emphatically emphasize in this sovereignly selected session or season that the Lord himself has set aside, that we would all be wise to realize. Mother Murphy, we would be wise to realize and simultaneously recognize that oftentimes it's in the midst of our unharnessed hardships, or what we deem to be our worst times, that God will then turn things on a dime and cause us to enter into the very best of times in our lives. Am I helping anybody, Hosley? Am I helping anybody? And I believe it was the late legendary literary luminary Charles Dickens. Can I quote Dickens today? I believe it's the late, Mother Beverly, good to see you. I know you've been ailing, praying for you. I believe it was the late legendary literary luminary Charles Dickens whom shared commentary in his dialectic, Lady Hosley, dissertation of The Tale of Two Cities, who expressed how he was inclined that we can be experiencing, watch this, the best of times and the worst of times at the very same time. Let it marinate on the mortal membranes of your minds for just a moment. You praying with me, babe? I said we can be experiencing the best of times and the worst of times at the very same time. Two things can be true. Now, can I talk today if I don't preach? Okay. Now, some may consider this and insist or situationally say that it's ironic. Yes, some would say, young Charles, some would say it's ironic or even a bit oxymoronic, but I deem this day, the day in which we live, to be intentionally iconic. For if you would allow me to say, Charles Dickens, decidedly, his indifferent discourse is a rather accurate description of both the world as well as the kingdom of Christendom right now, today. We are very literally living in a period of rapid change and going through things that are in the range of what we might call or deem to be strange. Am I talking to the right church? However, the Apostle Peter explained from 1 Peter 4, between verses 2-13, we glean, beloved, think it not strange. Think it not strange concerning the fiery trials that have gone on for a while, or the things that you go through which come to try you, as though some strange thing has happened unto you. But rejoice. Change your perspective. But rejoice inasmuch as you are partakers of Christ's suffering, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. Y'all not talking back to me. In fact, let these strange days prompt a praise. Y'all not talking to me. Y'all not talking to me. Look down your road, let a neighbor know, say, let these strange days prompt a praise. Can I take you further? I almost just put on my robe because I didn't want to be too cute today, because I got some serious stuff to say. What it is that our current climate, daughter Dansby, is discussed and conversed. We seem to be postured in a place where things are getting increasingly worse and worse. However, it's now more than at any time ever that despite each and every very injurious endeavor, when our situations are assessed, it's not the time. Tell your neighbor, this is not the time for any of us to stress. Tell your neighbor, don't stress. It's not time for any of us to be stressed, because in all actuality, we are really only being put to the test as a predestinal prerequisite of gaining access to what is going to be considered as God's very best. Am I helping anybody? Now, this premise, and I'm almost there, believe it or not, I'm almost there. This premise was, Nicole, perhaps best established via the verbiage and the affidavit of David the psalmist. In fact, you'll find it mentioned from the text of Psalms 27 and glean there at verse number 13. Come on, walk with me. You see, with pain, he was well acquainted. David, daughter Hicks, David knew something about pain. With pain, he was, Lady Hosley, well acquainted, and even now his testimony remains intact and untainted, for he spoke, Tyrus, and wrote to us at a time in his life when for him things were adverse. He speaks to us when times were adverse and perhaps getting progressively more worse. And I heard him admit that, watch this, he really wanted to quit. Anybody felt like that? Just admit, I really wanted to quit. Watch this, saying, now we interpret and say, I would have fainted. King James said, I had fainted. Until I believed to see the goodness that God himself promised would exist where? In the land of the living. I could not, in my fainted status, ignore that God still had something good in store. I can't get no help in here. You see, it was based on his belief that God promised to give him relief from his grief. And when he regurgitated it in brief, David assessed it and then called it good grief. Lean on your neighbor and say, good grief. This is good grief. This is good grief. Y'all ain't talking to him, say, yeah, this is good grief. And just so you know that he was not conflicted, he restated it again and communicated in Psalms. Watch this again. He said, it was good for me that I was afflicted. That, watch it, because it allowed me to learn that the Lord had the ability to deliver me from any and every adversity. Y'all not saying that to me. Look at your neighbor and say, my adversity has been good for me. Look down your road, let another neighbor say, my adversity has been good for me, because I know that God is going to bring me to a place of relief so I can just shout, good grief. Am I helping anybody today? So believers, instead of, and I promise I really am almost there, instead of just walking around Trejardin with a definitive dispositional demeanor of disbelief, I need you to realize, and then Joanne simultaneously recognize, Adriana, that in response to this particular season of our lives, we can be at peace. Because our God has promised, watch this, Lady Hosley, to bring relief. Hence, I'm convinced, Nyla, I'm convinced, Mother Carter, I'm convinced with this ever more present evidence that we're going through, what we're going through can be considered, when spoken in brief, as good grief. Our situations, God is going to bring relief, because this is a time of good grief. To our homes and our marriages, God is going to send or bring relief, for this is a time of good grief. To our relationships, courtships, friendships, fellowships, God says, I'm going to bring relief, so this is good grief. To our circumstances, to our finances, to our advances, to our courses, to our resources, God is going to bring relief. And look at your neighbor and say, this is a time of good grief. Which is why not one of us, I told you I'm going to talk you through today, not one of us have any reason to be mad. Not one of us, Pop Beverly, have any reason to be sad, because in the matter of a few moments, God is about to make the best out of what's been bad. Y'all not talking to me. Look at your neighbor and say, I ain't mad and I ain't sad. God's about to make the best of what's been bad. God's about to make the best of a situation that's been bad. God's about to make the best of a location that's been bad. God's about to make the best of places and spaces that have been bad. Gina, God's about to make the best of circumstances and finances that have been bad. Look at your neighbor like you're really not sad and say, God is about to make the best of what's been bad. This is the year God making the best of what's been bad. This is the month that God is about to make the best of what's been bad. This is the week, this is the day, this is the hour, this is the minute, this is the second, this is the moment, this is the day, this is the, watch this, the season, the session, this is the time. Point at the name and say, this is my time, and I'm going to watch God make the best of what's been bad. Can I just talk you through? Hosley, you know, that was like a 23rd and Alberta push. In fact, let me converse. I I need you to get yourself ready, Trajan. Why? Because God is about to reverse what's been worse. And for those whom pass the test, God's going to give us access to possess his very best. Am I talking to the right church? And if you agree, stop her right there, Joanne, stop her right there. Woman of God, stop right there. Woman of God, stop right there. Stop right there, stop. God has, I don't know if he's ever done this in the history of my ministry when somebody come in. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I heard God say, because you made your press, he's about to, and you'll understand in a minute, he's about to do in your life something that is his very best. Because there were seasons previous to this that you would have stayed home. You wouldn't have made your way this late. But God said, because you pressed, he's about to show you his very best. And for the 7 or 8 people that will jump, holler, run, scream, or give God praise for hers, God said the same can be true for you. There is no secret what God can do. What he's doing for her, he can do the same thing. The same thing for you. All right, let me get back to this. So God is about to cause his best to be made manifest. And if you agree, just turn and tell 2 or 3 seated somewhere in your vicinity. Tell them, prepare for God to reverse your worst and bless you with his best. Prepare for God to reverse. Don't hum like that because I ain't ready. Reverse your worst and bless with his best. Believers, you need to know that behind the scenes, Mama LaSure, behind the scenes. I'm glad you got your pen out. I know you normally do, but God said you're going to eat some of this word this week and it's going to bless the entirety of your life. Why am I in this prophetic so early? Believers, you need to know that behind the scenes, I'm resigned that because he who is definitively divine, we shall yet begin experiencing a prophetically predestined, what is prophetically predestined, the best of things during the worst. You hear me? During the worst of times. Now, in setting my most earnest ambition to move these Hosley Minds Sunday morning sermonic suppositions in rather rapid transition. However, in doing so, the Lord has allowed me to know the conceptual and contextual clarity. Conceptual and contextual clarity is an absolute necessity. Can I be clear today? Okay. So it is a must that for the benefit of all of us, that this morning what I discuss comes with definitions in order for us to successfully transition and correct our conditions. Hence, when it is, Hardy, that I express what shall soon be made manifest. Lady Hosley, watch this. I choose and use the word best. Why did I use that? By definition, best, the word best is that which is of the most excellent, watch this, effective or desirable type or quality. Best means to be or exist at the highest degree, daughter Hicks, or the most in comparison to others. When I say worst, I should not have to define it, but I will so that we're clear. Worst is the most serious and unpleasant thing that could occur or happen. The worst. Secondarily, it is the superlative of bad. Or the status of being the lowest in quality, even the most unpleasant, difficult, or severe situation, or the most severe circumstance. Just the worst. When I utilize the word times, time is the indefinite continued progress, watch this, of existence and events in the past, in the present, and the future regarded to as a whole. Secondarily, when I say time or times, it is the defining moment or moments indicated by years, months, weeks, days, hours, minutes, seconds, or even moments. Y'all said I could teach today. Y'all gave me real good time. Now, I'm going to do my best, Pop. Watch this. If these rather distinct and definitive definitions are to be heralded as being indisputably true, then a very simple sermonic synopsis of what I've been anointed, appointed, and even assigned by the divine to share with you, Trinell, I've got to insist that it is this. Is anybody in here ready? Believers, we now find ourselves, touch your name and say, we find ourselves. We find ourselves purposely postured in a place considered the infinite continuation of our past. We find ourselves in a place considered to be the infinite continuation of our past while positioned in our present and prepared to enter into our future. While we are also enduring some of the most serious and unpleasant things that we've ever seen constantly, Gina, occurring or constantly happening. Am I in the right church? However, despite our fights, Mother Carter, and all the injurious endeavors, we are yet earnestly expectant of things, or earnestly expectant of blessings, of which the quantity or quality will be both effective and excellent. Are you in here? People of the living God, please allow me to decree that we are getting ready to see and seize. We're getting ready to see things manifest in our lives to the highest, Lady Hosley, highest, very highest of degree. Am I in the right church? Hence, I'm convinced that there is no real reason for us to be sad, nor even momentarily, Hardy, as you creep this way, be mad, while persevering this present period deemed as being superlatively bad. Are y'all gonna help me? For in all actuality, these defining yet disturbing moments won't last. Am I gonna get some help in here? Come here, late great Dr. Timothy Wright. I'm so glad trouble don't last always, but what God promised will surely come to pass. I'm almost there now. It's interesting. In the interest of being, as you get even more closer, you're going to tackle me in a minute. In the interest of, that's all right. You got my back. One of my sons said he's your armor bearer. He don't have no arms but those. In the interest of being thorough and contextually complete, I arrived, Trajan, today for service, ready to teach. With what I'm going to call, and young people, y'all have to correct me if I don't say it right, I've come to teach with documented deeds. And I've also come with some recorded receipts. Tell your neighbor, Bishop got receipts today. Hence, please allow me this ordained opportunity to preach this premise in both parallel as well as principal, and then make it personal. Watch this, practical and applicable, even applicable for this contingency of God's people. Are y'all gonna help me? In fact, with no form of flex, let me call to your remembrance what the text of the book of St. Mark, chapter number 5, readily reflects and then parenthetically projects. Are y'all still in here? St. Mark 5 was where we arrive, and believers, might I far more than just merely suggest that when put to the literal, spiritual, and scriptural litmus test, it openly attests that when for us things look bad, that's when our God is at his best. Look at your neighbor, say, let me attest. When things look bad, that's when God is at his best. In fact, it's then when the Lord himself steps in, LJ, steps in, Antoine, and causes some of the greatest miracles to be made manifest. Now, I'm almost there. As we arrive at the rather rich recitations of verse 25, what we uncover, discover, and derive is that we find this womb-wounded woman. Can I give you my pretext? We find Nicole, what I'm going to call this womb-wounded woman. In all actuality, she's struggling to survive. And she's doing, Hosley, all she can just to remain alive. Can I say this? Because it's just in my spirit. It's not in my note. Leave people alone. Because you don't know how hard they're struggling to survive and just remain. You judging and you talking and you tweeting and you pointing and you criticizing. I I come to tell you, there's some people who, like our sister here, they're just struggling to survive and remain alive. So let them come in and receive a word and thrive. You've been around for years and you still ain't clear. So then just move out of the way and let them come in and hear what the Lord has to say. I don't mean to swing so hard, but yeah, I do. So she's struggling, Lady Hosley, to survive, doing all she can to remain alive. And without being too gory or graphic, let's just say that this now wearied woman came seeking without speaking, with her life liquid leaking. She came seeking, not speaking. She ain't speak to me. Maybe it ain't you she came to talk to. She just came to talk to the Lord. And she didn't speak to me today. Did you see her? That's what I'm saying. Church people. She didn't come to see you. She came to get her breakthrough. She came seeking because all the life liquid from her body for 12 years had been leaking. And you ain't tried to fix it. All you've been doing is peeking. I'm going to go on the road again next week because they're going to be mad when I get done. Came seeking. She didn't have time. All that speaking. Because for 12 years, the life liquid from her body was leaking. In fact, for 12 long years, she had been literally hemorrhaging. And I'm sure that some medical professionals, Lady Hosley, pray me through here, would attest that by now she was extremely anemic at best. Bleeding for 12 years. And if you would allow me to move very quickly in transition, verse number 26 speaks with prolific specifics. It's just a pretext. Maybe I won't even get to the main text. And dares Hosley to make mention of the fact that this woman, watch this, had taken her condition to be assessed and addressed by many different physicians. We were watching that show, it was coming to me, I promise you what. And taking her condition to every possible physician. However, Nicole, despite the doctor's most earnest efforts and endeavors, nothing about her situation was better. But rather, from what all we garner and gather per what's conversed, recorded and rehearsed via the verbiage of the B clause of the 26th verse, the Bible actually insists that not only were things adverse, her sickness had gotten progressively worse than it was at first. What did you say, Bishop? So glad you asked. Not only was the situation adverse, Mom LaSure, but it was worse than it was at first. Believers, please see, and I'm almost there, Joanne, that while all too often we have a tenacious tendency to focus and even stress how she pressed to have her issue addressed, in this moment, we must converse. Can we converse about this? In this moment, we must converse that this woman's issue had gotten worse first before it was reversed. You rocking with me, son? I'm not the theologian that you are, but I heard the text converse that her situation got worse first before it was reversed. I can't get no help in here. No doubt. The text does publicly profess that she did indeed put herself in the press to have her issue addressed. However, prior to what soon would transpire, and Jesus doing what she so desperately desired in her life, things got worse first. In fact, per what I exact or extract is that prior to her situation being reversed, things got worse first. Prior to her condition, Juwan, getting reversed, it got worse first. Prior to her position, prior to her disposition being reversed, it got worse first. Prior to her illness, prior to her sickness being reversed, daughter Hicks, it got worse first. Prior to her stress, prior to her distress getting reversed, it got worse first. Could it be that while you're ready to give up, throw up your hands, I can't get no help in here, walk away, turn away, fall down, stay down, turn around, perhaps God says, I'm getting ready to reverse, but it might be a little worse before. It might be worse at first. Look at your name and say, it might be worse at first. I was on the plane trying to get back here on Wednesday, Hosley, and believe it or not, it was more stormy and rainy in the bay than it was here that day. And the pilot got on and said, listen, you can see it outside. He was kind of being sarcastic, but he said, look outside. You can tell that when we take off, it's going to be bumpy. So I'm asking the flight attendants to remain seated. Trey, now I'm going to let them be seated until we are completed getting through the storm. I can't get no help in here. In other words, I'm going to get you to a high climbing altitude where things will get smooth, but it might be worse at first. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me. I hate turbulence as much as I fly, but at least gave us a warning. It might be worse at first, but I'm going to get you to an altitude where it's going to be reversed. I can't get no help in here. Look at your neighbor and say, it might be worse at first, but God's going to get us to an altitude where what's been bad is going to be reversed. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me. Am I helping anybody? Oh, Lady Hosley, he says, I'm going to cause it to be reversed, but it might get worse first. Now, you see here, what becomes obvious is that not only did she come to Jesus when her situation was extremely adverse, but the Bible says that she was, she started feeling worse first. Y'all ain't saying nothing, but she refused. Here it is. You ready? But she refused, Pop Beverly, to allow her circumstances to hinder her advances. She refused to allow her circumstances to hinder her chances of being healed from her ills. Can I say this? I'm going to turn my back, but I ain't scared of y'all, but I'm going to turn my back so nobody feels personally offended. You will never be healed at home. Now, if you're at home legitimately watching by virtual means and you cannot get up and get here, okay, I'm not talking to you, but I'm talking to the lazy folk. Did I say that out loud? I ain't scared. Because if I'm going to help you, I may have to hurt you first. Forsake not the assembling of thyself together in the manner of some. There's certain things you're not going to get at home. You got to come to the house. Now, if you're working or you got schedule or you got things that you have to do, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to those that have said, listen, I'm going to make my tea and I'm going to make my coffee, I'm going to make my latte, and I'm going to just stand up and, get in my easy chair and put my feet up and just watch Bishop. Go ahead, Bishop, in your... That's why they call it a lazy boy. I lost my audience now. But this woman said, I'm not going to let my circumstances hinder my advances or my chances. Y'all still love me? You got to go to heaven. Don't let your circumstances hinder your chances or advances towards healing. Don't let your circumstances hinder your chances or advances towards wholeness. Don't let your circumstances or hinder your chances or advances to your way out, your way through, your come through, or your breakthrough. Am I helping anybody? Don't let your circumstances hinder your chances or advances from recovery, rediscovery, or restoration. If we can get up and go to work, why would we get up and come to the house? Per what's discussed, the text tells us that she broaches or approaches Jesus. Let me hurry through here because I feel mad on seven spirits. This lady was almost out of breath, perhaps only days from a date with death. Yet she, with every ounce of strength she had left, she was predisposed. What did I say? She was predisposed that all she needed to do was to get to Jesus and touch his clothes in order for her medical miracle to unfold and she be made whole. Are y'all hearing me? And all we now know in doing exegetical exploratory of this oratory is that the ending allegory of her story for the verbiage of verse number 29 is openly outlined in a manner that is not veiled or vague, that this woman didn't have to beg, but she literally leaped, or she lunged towards Jesus's leg, and when she grabbed the hem of him, y'all didn't catch it, she didn't grab him, she grabbed the hem of him. She was immediately and instantaneously healed of her plague. Am I talking to the right church? Hence, based on this evidence, this morning, my family and friends, I just stopped by and I stepped in to preach to at least a few of you who have been dealing with some rather similar situations and long-standing issues. And I came to declare unto you what I know to be true, that our God, touch your neighbor, say our God, is going to come through, and he will solve and resolve the issue. However, you need to hold on and remain strong, because for a time, season, and session, it may be worse at first before it gets reversed. Y'all not saying nothing to me. Your battle may have to get worse. Watch this. Make it worse first, and then it's going to be reversed. Your fight, your battle, your trouble, your struggle may be worse at first, but God says, I'm going to make sure it's reversed. Your headache, your heartache, your heartbreak, your mistake may cause things to be worse at first, but God says it's going to be reversed. Your drama, your trauma, your hell, your travail may be worse at first, but God, Mother Murphy said, it's about to be reversed. Lean on your neighbor and say, God, watch God reverse the worst. Y'all not talking to the right neighbor. Say, watch God reverse the worst. Point over your other shoulder. Say it even bolder. Say, watch God reverse the worst. And wasn't this the tantamount testimony of a gentleman by the name of Joseph? At a time when his brothers and quite a few others put him through things well beyond what he thought he should, and really even should or would. However, Lady Hosley, despite the not so clever endeavors via the text of Genesis 50 and 20, I heard him tell this contingency to a great extent. What you meant for an evil intent towards me, God has reversed it for my good. Look at your neighbor. Say, I've been going through some stuff that is far more than I thought I should, or that I really ever could. But tell them, watch God reverse the worst for my good. Look at another neighbor. Talk to him with consecrated favor. Say, I've been going through stuff that I never thought I would, but in the next 17 days, a day you watch God reverse the worst for my good. We've been enduring days like we never thought we would, but watch God reverse the worst to work out for our good. We've been enduring times, seasons, and sessions like we never thought we would, but tell your neighbor, watch God reverse what's been worse to work out for my good. Gina, tell my boy, I'll text him too. In spite of what he's going through, we've enduring seasons and sessions, crisis and demonic devices, more than we ever thought that we would. But watch God reverse the worst to work out for our good. And about 10:30 yesterday, I got on a prayer call with the Apostle Paul, and he said, Hosley. I said, yeah, Paul, it's me. He said, when you get to service tomorrow, talk to people who've been going through a season of sorrow. And what do you want me to communicate? He said, grab Romans 8:28 and say, all things work together for our good, just like God promised they would. Look at your neighbor and say, I've been going through a situation that looks adverse, but watch God reverse all of the worst. After all this time, watch God reverse all the worst. After all these years, and God's gonna bless every seed. Watch God reverse all of the worst. After all the tears and all the fears, watch God reverse all of the worst. After all the contradiction, restriction, addiction, and affliction, watch God reverse all of the worst. After the enemy, conspiracies, insecurities, inadequacies, injuries, infirmities, infirmities, tragedies, calamities, loss, and travail, unfortunate fatalities. Watch God reverse all of the worst. Put your hand on your neighbor. Put your hand on a neighbor. Rock them and shake them with some kind of favor. Say, I know you've been going through, and God's going to bless every seed, some situations that have been adverse, but in the next 17 days, watch God reverse the words. I need a few people who know it's true to tell somebody around you, watch God reverse all of the words. After all the criticism, skepticism, scandalism, minimalism, watch God reverse what was worse. And we know God's gonna bless every seed. And we know, in fact, make it personal. And I know all things in a matter of time are gonna work out as God predestined. Lean on your neighbor. I said, lean on your neighbor and tell them, let me put this on your mind. God's about to do the best of things at the worst of times. That was the wrong neighbor. Go find one more neighbor. Talk to him with favor. Lean over and tell him, I'm inclined and I'm resigned that God is about to do the best things in the worst of times. In fact, when the worst is over, the best is yet to come. I said, the worst of Deja, Murphy the worst, Jamania the worst, Angelina the worst, daughter Dandry the worst is over, and the best is yet to come. Let me go old school. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. The storm is passing over. And what did they say? Hallelujah. Tell your neighbor, my storm is passing over. The hail is passing over. The travail is passing over. Tell the White House, the storm is passing over. Tell the Congress, the storm is passing over. Tell the Senate, the storm is passing over. Let me be personal. Tell every hater, the storm is passing over. Tell every manipulator, the storm, I might not get back to this, the storm is passing over. In fact, let me cut to the chase. The Bible says in the last days, perilous, dangerous times would come. Seducers, I said seducers will get worse and worse and adverse. But let me tell you something. God told me early, Lady Hosley, this morning, it's okay. Send the seducers, but the seducers are actually inducers for God's producers. Look at your neighbor and say, let the seducer induce you to produce. Tell your neighbor, I've been going through, but I'm induced to produce. I've been going through, but I'm induced to produce. And God said the best is coming out of the worst. Y'all ain't saying nothing. I need some women to holler at your boy. The pregnancy was bad, but the birth was the best. Tell your neighbor it was a bad pregnancy, but the birth was worth it. When I birthed it, it was worth it. I birthed it, it was worth it. When I birthed it, it'll be worth it. When I birthed it, it'll be worth it. When I birthed it, it'll be worth it. The enemy is sending seducers, but that's
at your neighbor and say, tell every seducer, thank you for being my inducer, because you pushed me into my destiny. Y'all ain't saying nothing. In fact, put your hand on somebody's back and say, God is pushing me into my destiny. The problem pushed me into my destiny. Every hater pushed me into my destiny. Every manipulator pushed me right into my destiny. And God said, though it's been a bit adverse, he's about to reverse what's been worse, and you're going to be better than you were at first. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm expecting the best of things.